Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's episode, I'm going to discuss about the ways and means of exploiting structural weakness. So before getting into the game, I would like to give you an overview about the structural weakness and the methods of exploiting structural weakness. So what is known as structural weakness? Basically, any weakness that appears in a pawn structure is often termed as structural weakness. There are two types of structural weakness: pawn weakness as well as square weakness. Pawn weakness, the commonly seen pawn weaknesses are isolated pawns, backward pawns, and double pawns. A square weakness is basically what we normally term as a hole in a pawn structure. That means a square in one's own territory that cannot be protected by pawns is termed as a square weakness, or we simply call it a hole. So these two are the main structural weaknesses. Now, when it comes to exploiting structural weakness, especially when it is a pawn weakness like isolated pawn, double pawn, or backward pawn, you have to control the square in front of the pawn if your opponent has got such a pawn weakness. How can this be done? How can you control the square? This can be done by exchanging or by removing the opponent's minor pieces that are controlling or can control the square in front of that particular pawn. If that pawn is a weak pawn, I'm talking about isolated pawn, backward pawn, or double pawns. If the weakness is a square, then you have to remove the pieces of the opponent that can control that particular square. This is the basic method of exploiting a structural weakness, because we know that the minor pieces are the best defenders of structural weaknesses. So once they disappear from the board, it is almost impossible to protect those weaknesses again, and the exploitation of such weak squares are quite easily possible there. Now, to show this point, today I have selected a game played between Judith and Vishwanathan Anand in 1998. Let me go straight into the game right now. So the game started with Judith playing with e4 and Anand responding with c5. Knight f3, d6, d4, c into d4, knight into d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6, bishop e3, and e5. So we have here the Sicilian knight off, a quite popular opening variation. And now white played knight f3, bishop e7, bishop c4, castle, castle, and a bishop e6. And again, all these moves are quite popular. And white played queen e2, black played b5, and Judith played bishop to b3. At this point, the usual move is h6. Obviously, one cannot play knight b d7. If knight b d7 is played, then bishop into e6, pawn takes e6, and knight g5. And this is the reason why h6 is often advocated. So let's go back to the move, the position here. At this point, Anand introduced a novelty, that is bishop into b3. Many people criticize this move, and the game also, the developments in the game proved that Anand was wrong. Let us look at this bishop into b3 in detail and try to understand the position. The bishop on e6 was directly controlling the square in front of the backward pawn. This backward pawn is probably a weakness, but in neither of course, black gets a lot of counterplay. But if the bishop disappears from e6 and the d5 square is left unprotected, then this pawn could well turn into a weakness. Of course, there's a knight here. I'm not forgetting that, but this is a fact that the bishop has now disappeared from the e6 square, and the light colored bishop is the principal defender of the d5 square. So at this point, white can create a plan. Can simply develop a plan here. This plan is simple: exchange the defenders of this light colored square, the square in front of this backward pawn. Now the defender is the knight on f6, and possibly the other knight can also become a defender at some point. So white will try to remove these two pieces and will try to occupy the d5 square with one of his knights. And if that is made possible, then his knight will be a very powerful piece against a very poorly placed bishop on e7. Let us look at the continuation here. Anand played NB-d7, to which Judith responded with rook f d1. And this move is quite obvious because she is looking at the d5 square, the square in front of this backward pawn. And now White's plan is clear. White will play bishop g5 and exchange this knight. And at some point, we'll play one of the knights here and remove the second knight on f6 and ultimately bring the knight on f3 to d5 square. If White is permitted to do all these, definitely White's position will become far more superior. This is the White's plan here. Let us see what happened here. And here, Anand played queen c7. Now, bishop g5. Judith's plan is slowly unfolding. Rook f8. And this is usually we consider the counterplay in the knight of playing against this c2 pawn. And that's quite understandable. And this position, we cannot say black is really bad. It's not bad because black is getting nice counterplay against, or expected to get nice counterplay against this pawn on c2. So rook a7 is not possible because rook a7 means b4, bishop into f6, knight into f6, knight d5, knight into d5, rook into d5, and a5. There you can see a permanent problem. So rook a7 is not really possible. And with the rook disappearing from the a file to the c file, there is not much pressure against the a5 pawn as well. So for this reason, Judith played knight e1. The idea is very simple. This knight is at the moment trying to protect the pawn on c2 and has got a long-term plan of moving on to the d5 square in this fashion. Or there's another route here. And the third route is also possible via g2 to e3 and d5. So Judith has got this knight eyeing the all-important d5 square here. So after knight e1, black actually at this point could have played b4. But the problem with b4, unlike in the previous variation, is that the rook is still on a file and this pawn could be subjected to some pressure. And also, if this pawn advances to a5 at some point, the light-colored squares in the black queen side will become weak. So for this reason, Anand played queen b7. However, this is not good because now you can see the white's plan unfolding systematically here. Bishop into f6, knight into f6, and knight d5. Now the final knight is on the f6 square, that is controlling the square in front of the backward pawn is going to be exchanged. Knight into d5, rook into d5. Now b4 is still possible, but the problem in b4 is that this pawn becomes very weak, and also the light color squares could become weak. So the practical chance is to play rook c5, which is quite good because black is trying to exchange this in a rook, and white played rook a8. For the time being, white is not bothered about the exchange of d5 because white can replace the d5 rook with the d1 rook, so there is no problem. White want to get one of the pieces on d5 and not this pawn to d5 because then the file will be blocked and the black's pawn on d6 will not be will no longer be a weakness. So after a rook a d1, rook into d5, rook into d5, rook c8, c3, b4, and now c4. Now with the c4, you can easily find that the weakness on c2 has been removed. There is no weakness on c2, and this knight can now think of attacking this pawn on b4 with the knight c2 move. Also can think of playing to e3. From there, it can move to d5. That is its final destination. So after c3, after c4, if black plays rook c5, then definitely this rook would be dropped to d1 because white is not looking for an exchange on d5. He just wants his knight to be on d5. So after c4, black played g6. And white can now think of playing nd3 or nc2. She played g3. Okay, this is fine. There is nothing wrong with this because this gives an escaping route for this king in case. And also, this knight can be played with g2. From where it can go to e3. Again, from the e3, it can move on to d5 square. So this is fine. Now Anand played rook c5. Immediately, white responded with rook d1, a5. Okay, nc2, king g7. And after king g7, queen d3. Now, white's control over the all-important d5 square is evident, and black has no way of removing this hold. And after queen d3, rook c6, knight d3, queen c8. This queen c8 has a threat of queen h3 followed by h5, h4. So h5, h4. So king g2, and that plan is stopped. So after king g2, queen e6, queen e6, queen e2, bishop d8. Probably looking for bishop b6 and exchanging this one. Obviously, white is going to play nd5. And now rook c5. So with this nd5, white has achieved the long-term objective of getting a strong knight against a poor bishop. I mean, often chess paralysis, this knight is called described as the eternal knight because it cannot be removed nor can be exchanged by any other piece except the rook, because that's going to be an exchange sacrifice, which is not usually going to be fine for black. So white has got a very powerful knight against your poor bishop, and also there's a weak pawn here, another weak pawn here. So white's position is really preferable here. So after nd5, rook c5, queen e3. Now bishop e7, rook d3. Now white is going to slowly rearrange the pieces because white has not got a complete domination in the center. Now white is trying to open another front, most likely on the king side, because then black's defense can be stretched. So after rook d3, bishop d8. As you can see here, Anand has no real play. He's simply shuffling his pieces back and forth. Queen d2, rook c6, and now queen d1, king g8. Basically, black is helpless. h4. At this point, I think black should consider playing h5, stopping white's further aggression on the h5, down the h5. However, Anand continued the wait and watch policy here with king g7 and was met with h5. So now bishop g5. Now white's plan after queen f3 is clear. He just wants to open the h5 so that he can create second area of attack down the h5. Let us see how this is played out in this game. Rook c8, rook d1. Plan is slowly unfolding. Rook c6. Black is simply waiting for white to do something. Rook c8, rook h1, king g8. And now here, Judith played f3. A beautiful move. What is the beauty here? This move has got twofold plans. The first plan is getting the queen onto f2, and from here the queen can go to either b6 or a7, make an entry into the black's position. And the second plan is after a possible exchange on g6, h into g6, if black responds with h into g6, white can play the queen to h2, over to h2, and then he can start the attack down the h5. This is the point. So black immediately played rook b8. Idea is to defend against the queen's white's queen's invasion onto the queen side. So after queen f2, rook b7. So now you can see that the rook's the planned invasion of the queen has now been prevented. There is no way that white's queen can make it to the black's queen side. So after the rook b7, here comes h into g6. Now this is the point where black has to take a decision. Can black play h into g6 or can he play f into g6? If h into g6, then queen g1 with the idea queen h2. This is devastating. No chance. Basically, black's position is on the verge of a collapse. So Anand took back with the f4. And now with this capture, you can see the black's king is getting exposed. Now, white can think of making an entry onto the black's king side through the center. So immediately, Judith played c5. She broke the center and found a way to erase the black's below king. So queen c5, bishop d8. Now rook c1. The idea of this rook c1 is to get this rook on the c4 and then take the queen back and place it behind the rook. So the rook will be in front of this battery, the typical plan in such positions. So after rook c1, king f7. I think, okay, king 7 is not a very bad move, but after queen e3, the white gets a tempo because white is trying to invade with queen h6. So black played king g7. Now rook c4, rook d7, queen c1, and at this point, Anand played h5. I think this is not a fine move to be played here because black weakens his king set further. And after h5, rook c6, rook d6, and rook c8, queen d7, and with queen c5, white is attacking many points. So black's position is getting tougher and tougher to defend, difficult to defend here. So after queen c5, king h6, rook b8. The point behind rook b8 is going to be evident in the next few moves. So after rook b8, bishop f6. Now here Judith played queen e3 check. Now at this point we need to look at the black's options. If black plays king h7, the rook b8 move is going to be very show its power. Now here a rook a8 with the idea rook a7, which is very difficult to defend. So point number one. So now instead of king h7, if king g7 is played, almost same thing we can see. Now rook a8, rook a8, queen b5, rook a7, check, rook d7, rook into d7, queen into d7. And now after queen b6, you can see now the queen is attacking 2 points at the same time, but can be defended with bishop d8. Now after bishop d8, queen b8, threat queen into e5. This has to be defended. So in case queen, this is the only move, basically queen e8, other moves makes no sense. So now the point is knight c7, the attacking the queen. When the queen moves, say for example, queen to e7, you take on d8, and this fork wins the game on the spot. So for that reason, king g7 cannot be played. So in the game, after queen e3 check, black played bishop g5. And now white played f4, e into f4. And after rook h8, at this point, I'm resigned. Let us see what is the point behind this resignation. After rook h8, king g7, and now queen d4 check. Bishop f6. Now white has a beautiful tactical shot. That is queen into f6. Rook into f6, rook h7. King into h7, knight into f6 check, and this after this white can take this queen, and this leaves white with an extra piece. And this is the reason why another side. So with this, I hope you understood the ways and means of exploiting a structural weakness. White cleverly exchanged all the key defenders of the square in front of the d6 pawn and established one of her knights on that square and dominated the proceedings, especially in the center, and then slowly opened another front on the king side. Black, unable to defend both sides, failed to meet the white's pressure and finally sat out. So with this, I hope you understood this classic game and the underlying theme here. I would like to wind up this video here and hope to come back with another video very soon. Till then, bye. Thank you.